In this video, we'll learn how to use the cash flow function in the financial calculator. Typically, this is useful in case of an uneven cash flow. Again, if you look at this timeline, you see what's going on. At the end of year 1, you deposit that $500, $400 at the end of year 4, 5, and 6, and $1,000 at the end of 10 years. Now you know that this is not a regular annuity. It's not just one payment we are looking at, multiple cash flows we can see, and let's say we are interested in either computing the present value or the future value. In other words, if the question says how much are these cash flows worth today, we are interested in solving for the present value. If the question says how much will you have at the end of 10 years, we are interested in the future value. To work these problems out, it's very helpful to use the cash flow function in the calculator. You could also do it individually. For example, if I want the future value of all these cash flows, I could just take the future value of that 500 in period 10, n would be 9, my present value is 500, IY is 10, just compute the future value. Do it for all of these and add it, but that's will take a longer period of time. So let's see how we can use the cash flow in the calculator. Cash flow. So once I hit the CF button in the calculator, you'll see that if you've not worked on this before, you'll see a 0, but if you have been working on some cash flow problems, it'll be the values would be stored. So the first thing you do is hit second and then clear at the bottom. So that resets everything, so we should be good to go for a brand new problem. Now we have to just tell the calculator when does the cash flow occur and what amount, and the calculator would basically do most of the things for us. So let's start with the very first. In this case, it's CF0. That is, what is the cash flow in period 0? Since we don't have anything to start with, it's just 0. I press the down arrow and it will ask me what is the cash flow in period 1. Looks like we have a cash flow at the end of period 1, which is a $500. So I would say 500 and then enter. Remember, not equal to, it's the enter button at the top. If you press the down arrow one more time, you might see it's not C again, it's a F01. So if we go back with the up arrow, that was my cash flow in period 1. So next thing it is asking is how many times that 500 occurs in a row. So in this case, I just see 500 just once, so I'll just leave that as it is, and I'll come back to that later whenever we have a series of cash flows, maybe here. Then my next cash flow is what? So you might think it's 400, but if we are doing that, again, we are ignoring the time value of money because we don't have anything in year 2 and 3. That means there's a 0. So 0 and 0. So in the calculator, I have to make sure my second year cash flow is 0. Enter. Down arrow. Again, this is where we can make use of the frequency. You could do 0 and then frequency 1 and then another cash flow 3, 0, frequency 1, or I could simply, my cash flow 2 is 0 and then it occurs 2 times in a row, 0. So I could simply do that and frequency of that to be 2. That means now it captured both of these cash flows right here. Now we are good to proceed, and now my next cash flow is not, even though it says 3 here, it's this cash flow right here, which is a $400. Again, you could do 400 frequency 1, 400 frequency 1, and 400 frequency 1, but since it's occurring in a row, year 4, 5, and 6, I could simply do frequency to be 3. So that captures all these 3 times in a row. Now by this point, you should know that your cash flow 4 is not 1,000 because we still have zeros in between, 7, 8, and 9. So my cash flow 4 would be 0, enter, and then frequency of 3. My last cash flow would be 1,000, frequency of 1, which is by default. Now if you just want to make sure you have your work correct, you could always use your up and down arrows, and this will be stored unless you clear it so that you don't have to redo the entire thing again. So as you can see, we started with nothing. Year 1 cash flow is 500, just once, 0 twice, 400 thrice, 0 again thrice, and then 1,000 looks correct to me. Then I press something called NPV in the calculator, which is net present value. Once you press that, whatever our discount rate is, we'll input that, 10, enter, and down arrow, NPV, compute. So all these cash flows are worth $1,587 and 1587.45. So if the question is asking how much are these cash flows worth today, that's the present value we are interested in, 1587.45. Now what about if the question is asking how much is it worth at the 10, it is worth after the end of 10 years? In that case, I'm interested in the future value. Those of you who are using the professional version of the BA2 Plus calculator, if you press down the arrow, you would see net future value, and if you just hit compute, it will tell you how much all these cash flows would be worth at the end of year 10, which is $4,117.44. So if you have the professional version, it will give this to you directly. But if you do not have the professional version, but if you just get to the NPV point, we should be able to get how much is that cash flow worth in year 10. So what I could do is simply, I know that we have to have a present value negative, so that I would set that to be my present value, because I know that all these cash flows are worth 1587 at that point. I have to find out how much is that worth at the end of year 10. So all I'm doing is getting the future value of that amount. So in that case, N would be 10. Again, IY is 10. Present value, we already said it was 1587. With just one payment we are looking at, compute future value. As you can see, we get the same exact thing. If you're not using the professional version, we could just one more step. But as long as you understand what you're doing, you should feel good. All right, so that's how we can use the financial calculator to work on uneven cash flows. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. I'll get back to you.